Hey guys, it's Steph, and today I want to talk a little bit about a very common transition that we use, and that is our forward fold and then coming up to stand. So a lot of times we'll see that we just go into our forward fold and naturally want to straighten our legs because we think that that is how we're going to stretch our legs and that is the best way to do it. So whether you can touch the ground or not from here, you can do it with me if you want, but I encourage you to feel where you're feeling this stretch in forward fold. So if I straighten my legs and I fold as far as I can, right now I'm feeling it in the back of my knees and in my low back, which is not my muscles. So that means that I'm stretching my ligaments. So how can I take this pose and focus on engaging the muscles instead? So we can simply do that by just bending the knees, and I guarantee that if you bend the knees, you're going to feel a little bit of pressure release on the low back, and then you're going to take the strain out of the back of the knees, which feels like a stretch, but it is a stretch for just our joints, but we're going to activate the muscles. So as soon as you bend the knees, you can start to feel, which I can feel already, my hamstrings firing up. So my legs are starting to work here. All right, now I can hang out here, maybe I want to rinse it out, maybe I want to walk those hands side to side, whatever it is, I want you to just feel the difference between being straight leg and then bending the knees. Because I can almost guarantee that you're going to feel an immediate difference in your knees, in your low back, and then in your muscles and your legs. So a lot of times what we'll either hear or we just naturally do without necessarily being told is rising up to stand, we take the arms out. So a lot of times we'll rise up to stand, fanning the arms out, and then we'll fold, swan diving down, back to that straight leg. So what happens when we move with arms out as we come up and down? So think about where I'm hinging from, just by watching my movement. If I'm not bending the knees, where's this movement coming from? My low back. I'm just hinging up and down from my low back. So if you have low back pain, you're really going to feel it, or maybe you have more of a low back curve like I do. I definitely am going to feel that in my low back or my SI joint. So what I want to focus on doing instead is coming up from the center. So if you soften the knees and you just rise up from the inner body, so inner thighs through the pelvis as you come out through the core, through the ribs, taking the hands up through the heart, reaching up overhead, you're going to get more of a kind of massage because you're rolling up naturally with the spine. And you're also going to get a longer breath, so you're coming up not necessarily on an inhale, but you're coming up with a breath and a half actually. So you're going to inhale, prepare, exhale as you roll up, and then you're only inhaling up about halfway. So you're not going to get that surge of maybe a head rush or kind of dizziness as you rise up to stand versus just coming up this way and then folding down. So it's slower, it's more engaged, and a little bit more control here with the breath, and it just feels good. So then again, we come back down through the center, bending the knees so that we're not hinging from the hips and the low back. So there's some kind of crazy variations out there with forward fold nowadays where people are bringing their head behind their legs, and really the functionality of that is not necessary. So how can we make this movement a little bit more functional? And that's simply by bending the knees. So we all know that if we're picking something up from the ground, we don't want to use straight legs, right? So if I drop something and I'm picking it up, I want to keep my legs straight when I pick something up. Or maybe I am going to lift something off the ground. Let's say I'm going to lift this block. I wouldn't do it with straight legs. I would bend my knees. So that is just the functionality of bending the knees in the roll up. And also think about when you're rising up to do something, even if you did bend the knees, you wouldn't come up to stand like this. you would pick it up and keep the arms probably a lot closer to the body or whatever you're carrying. But this really doesn't serve a purpose other than to look pretty, because it does, but if we're trying to move in a more functional way, how can we do that on the mat? And the first thing is almost always bending knees, bending the elbows, softening the joints, and getting into the muscles and out of just stretching through the ligaments. So think about that and try the two differences of moving with legs straight. So just doing a forward fold here, swan diving, and then bending the knees. See how this feels, and then roll up through the center. Because I can almost guarantee you're gonna feel an immediate difference in your body. And if you don't, feel free to ask me whatever questions you have. But give it a try. And like I said, this is a very functional move, and we see it all the time in yoga. Anytime we come up to stand, anytime we come to mountain pose, or we're stepping back to down dog, we're almost always doing a roll up or roll down from forward fold. So we want to get the most bang out of our buck and do it in a way that feels healthy and good on our bodies. So try it out and let me know what you think.